Hi everyone, so patch 1.4.3 is around the corner, the mid-season update for season 4. I've already covered this in my other video, so I'm not going to go through like all of the patch notes now, but we have come together and updated our tier lists, and this is really what this is about. So I want to talk you through what we have done here on especially our endgame and pits tier list with the Maxwell guys. We had another meeting after the patch notes and we discussed, okay, what is moving and where, and there are quite some significant shifts, as you can see here from our arrows. So a lot of stuff got buffed in this patch. Only one nerf really happened, which is that Holy Bolts is getting probably pretty severe nerf when it comes to minion Necros and potentially Barbs, I guess. But outside of that, basically everyone is going up, and potentially even some Barbs builds going up. So they're making the pit easier, and also certain classes just got like, you know, all around buffs, especially the Druids and the Sorcs, and like everything just got better. And some other highlights include Polarizes and back in action, Twisting Blades, and a few other things have received quite some changes here. So if you look at these arrows here, basically this is what changed. We have a lot of stuff that is kind of just going up quite a bit. So for example, wow, we moved Flurry from F to C tier, 2 tiers up, and kind of the same story for Twisting Blades. We moved from C to A tier. So a lot of people are excited for Twisting Blades, including myself, and I have spent several hours actually theory crafting the setup, reworking the setup, trying some mechanics, and I have prepared some gear for this to try out once the patch hits. In fact, I've recorded my build guide for this, and I've also updated the Maxwell guide here, so you can go check it out if you're interested in some melee rogue action. It's not like the best build out there, but it is pretty solid after the patch, so it's going to be quite nice. In general, we expect that every build is going up, and we don't really know the new scaling of the pit, so we can't really give like a benchmark of what tier can we do with that build. We're giving know the numbers before the patch, for example, like Flay Barbs around 130, Thorns Barbs around 130-ish, Bash Barbs as well. So this is kind of like the top end, with the Firebolt Sorc being the highest clear out there. We put it in S tier actually. However, a little caveat. While it technically goes the highest, it is not really by any means the strongest build out there. The only reason why it can do that is because it relies on extremely good gear at the high end, making you permanently immune because of Perma Flame Shield. And on top of this, you have Shatter that is massively bugged currently and allows you to do like insane, like dozens of billions of damage explosions basically, if you do this right. But if you just make a Firebolt Sorc and you don't play Shatter, or you don't do it correctly, it's not that good after all. So it shouldn't really give anyone the illusion that Sorc is really that powerful, but it turns out because of certain mechanic, because of those bugs, you can actually push higher than anyone else in the game currently can. This is why it's up here in S tier. It is still like an okay build. Even without that, it does pretty solid damage. Even without Shatter and so on, it would land somewhere here in A, for example, as like just like the regular damage output it has, but thanks to some of those mechanics, it goes pretty wild. However, this is like a really niche high-end thing, I would say. Definitely way less achievable than like just logging in on Flay Barb or Bash Barb and you start blasting basically. Then a few other things have also moved up here. So first of all, we have the Penetrating Shot Rogue. Penetrating Shot has just performed really well, and that can make use of some pretty interesting mechanics that I will go into in another video. TLDR, very easy combo point generation, Victimize, very powerful. You combine both here, it just makes for a really big package. So Rogue in general looks really good actually these days. It also got the buffed Andariel's build, that was already one of the best rogue builds out there, and now Andariel's is getting a lot better than before. So we expect this to be somewhere on the level of Heartseeker Rogue, maybe even better for farming, and around the same in pushing. So this is kind of what I think here. Rapid Fire also is getting a boost. It has a bigger explosion radius. So we had it in S tier already, but it's just better now, better to play. It can shoot at close range now. It's going to be more console friendly. So Rapid Fire should feel really good. In general, it's looking really nice for the rogues. And of course the barbs. You see that generally there are a lot of arrows up here for the rogues. We also moved Barrage into A. We also moved Grenade up from C to B. It also got some relatively noticeable buff. And well, some other stuff here, like in general, Rogue kind of looks really solid. So there's a bunch of builds here all the way down to here, I would say, that are all pretty solid to play. including Grenades Rogue if you really like that, or Death Trap Rogue, or the Poison Barrage Rogue. This is kind of like up here in B, for example. So lots of really good stuff. What is also getting a pretty significant buff in the patch is the Whirlwind Twister Barb. Right now we have moved it to A. We'll see, maybe it'll even go up. There's definitely a lot of potential here because you can play this with the buffed Tierlist Might to actually produce bleeds with Gushing Wounds and Berserk Ripping. A pretty powerful combo, but we will see how the Holy Bolts nerf will affect this, and potentially it will go up because it just has so much raw damage output with this Tierlist Might synergy. So maybe this will go up. It's certainly a very good farming build. So I will also try to put this together in the near future, and we'll see what I can do with this. Another big buff here is Polarized Druid. Polarized Druid was a little bit behind some of the other Druid builds, so somewhere in the range of like 10 or so pit tiers. And now I got some major buffs. So I got like more than double damage, I believe, and a bunch of other like small things that just make it more playable. In fact, I have been cooking on Polarized quite a while as well. This is also something I have already put together on a character ready for the patch, and I will try this out. So stay tuned for the video there. But I'm very much looking forward to Pulve. I really like Pulverize, and it should land somewhere in the range of these typical Druid builds. So there's a bunch of builds that are all kind of on the same level when it comes to Druid. Windshear being maybe slightly ahead, but then there's Landslide, there's Werewolf, Tornado, there's the Lightning Storm, and now there's Pulverize, there's Hurricane. So there's a lot of stuff that is like really close together here for the Druids, between like the A and B tier ranks basically, that all just kind of work relatively well, and Druid in general got lifted up quite a bit thanks to some Spirit Boom buff. So all of these builds just kind of like went higher here, and there's also a bunch of little things on the passive tree with extra boosted passives to just help out the class overall. Lastly, we have the Sorcs. So outside of the Firebolt, we see that basically nothing really moved here. So this is mostly just a change on the tier list and not because of the power change for this build. In fact, it probably received the least buff in this patch, because most of the Sorc buffs were actually more like defensive oriented, and well, an Immortal build doesn't really care about that. But we just decided that, okay, let's push the highest, let's put it here. But I explained this earlier. The other Sorc builds, nothing really like shifts tiers to like from A to S or something like that. Instead, just kind of like the Sorc class as a whole just moved up slightly. It got a little bit better because you just take less damage, you can play a bit more offensively, maybe you can roll a bit more offensive stats. A few other little tweaks here and there, but nothing really crazy for the Sorcs. So I imagine that maybe in Season 5 you're going to see some bigger overhauls or something like that, or maybe in the expansion. But for now, this is what we got, and we'll see how this will play out. Potentially, there might be some rescaling of the pit, and if, for example, Blizzard decides that pit bosses have a bit less HP than the monsters in the pit, this will, for example, greatly help the Sorcs, which generally struggle with boss damage on all of the builds. And if that is the case, we don't know yet, then Sorc might move up a little bit in general. But for now, nothing really moved tiers here. It just got all a little bit better. And for the Necros, there were not really all that many changes. We moved up Bone Spear, just mostly because it was overperforming a little bit based on what we thought. It had it in B somewhere. And other than that, on the Necro, also not really that much shifted around. So everything is kind of just working as expected. There were some small things here, but most of the buffs to the Necromancers were for their sacrifices. And almost no Necro build really runs sacrifices currently. There's a lot of minion stuff going on right now. You can make stuff work with sacrifice, for example, Bone Spirit, maybe even Bone Spear is thinkable, but maybe some other stuff as well. There were some blood buffs as well, but they're not really significant enough to really make an impact. So we moved this up here a little bit to Blood Surge, 7 Necro as well, but nothing really crazy out here for the Necros when it comes to any shifts in the patch. But there might be some stuff that you can do with, for example, the buffed unique items. Tyrus Might, Doombringer got a buff as well, Stardust Skies got a buff, so some of these styles might change a little bit based on that, and there might be some new stuff possible. So to sum this up a little bit, the big winners in this patch certainly are Twisting Blades and Polarized. Those builds got by far the most out of everything. And then there is just some other builds that just got lifted up a little bit thanks to just overall class buffs like the Druid and the Sorc. They also have Flurry. Flurry also got quite a significant boost here, for example. Some other builds that got a bit of a boost here, so especially a lot of rogue stuff. And yeah, just other classes moving a little bit. but nothing really that changes the overall landscape of the meta, I would say. So Barb is still up here, I guess, followed by Rogue now as the number 2. And then we have probably Necro and then Druid, Sorc being kind of like the number 4 and 5 or so. So this is kind of where it's at. And of course, if there's any kind of big shifts in the meta, we'll see. Maybe there's like some new stuff that people discover now because they get to, you know, put their eyes and their attention on some other new builds now that previously weren't really played that much or so. So I'm gonna keep you guys updated if more things change. And of course, my experience with the patch overall and what I've been cooking here with Twisting Blades, the Sorc, the Pulverize, and more that I want to play. All in all, though, everyone can rejoice. Everyone is a little bit stronger. I guess Barbs are the least stronger because, well, first of all, there was not much to buff. Besides, for some reason, this Blizzard decided to buff Flay a little bit, which is already one of the craziest builds out there, to be honest. But Barbs will probably feel the Holy Bolt nerf the most. So we'll see how this will play out. So I guess that classes in general move a little bit closer to the Barbs based on just the difference in the Holy Bolts. But Barbs are just still the most powerful anyway, I guess. So this is kind of where it's at. In any case, hope you enjoyed my summary here for the tier list. You can go find the tier list here on Maxroll or down in the description, so I'll have that linked. And otherwise, let me know what you think. Maybe there's something I've overlooked, or maybe we just are completely wrong about, or something that you have been cooking that is like not even listed here or something like that. I'll be curious about that, so let me know. Otherwise, hope you enjoyed the mid-season patch and this video, and I'll see you guys next time.